How do you overcome internal challenging relationships? I've had quite a lot of those, and I think the first thing you need to do is have a clear understanding of what it is you want to achieve, and be able to demonstrate very clearly to those people internally what the benefits are of delivering against your promises. Customer service, again, is about understanding the needs and wishes of those customers, and only by being able to demonstrate that and putting your point across will you be able to start to overcome those relationships internally. Ultimately, everybody in the business is there to deal with the customer and to service the customer, and it's up to you individually to demonstrate their part in it and start to involve them in that. Any advice on how to manage internal stakeholders and upwards, especially my managing director? Is there any reason why you can't talk to your managing director? I don't know how big your business is, but if there's a problem, talk to people about it. Involve people in what you're doing. Put together a 10-minute briefing on what you're trying to achieve and invite people to it. I have not yet worked for anybody who won't sit down and listen to me if I've got something to offer, a new idea, involve people in it. But put together something that suits your managing director's timescale, understanding the pressures that he is under, and ask him for his help in solving your problem. Anybody will give you 10 minutes, and make those 10 minutes count. What's the best way to communicate bad news internally to a business? That's a really good question, and I have done my fair share of doing that. I feel that bad news should always travel faster than good news. Losing a tender is not a crime. There are lots of reasons why you will lose a tender. There's lots of reasons why you'll gain them, but losing a tender is not a crime. And I think the positivity around this is, what are the learnings that come from losing that tender? Why did you lose it? Communicate with the buyer, understand why you lost it, and then use that as a learning for the future, and celebrate not the loss of the tender, but celebrate the learning that it's afforded you. But in terms of communicating, speak to everybody up the chain. Get everybody together, deliver the bad news, deliver it with a sense of commitment and a sense of understanding, and at the end of it, come back with 2 or 3 suggestions as how you could do things differently in the future that might help you to retain them. How do you deal with a customer that consistently makes unrealistic demands? Well, they all do that, don't they, really? This is where you come back to having your customer service, understanding your customer service vision. What is it that you can do? What is it that you can't do? What are you prepared to do? Now, I liken this to, it's my squares, rectangles, and spheres analogy. As a business, whatever we do as a business, we make 2-dimensional squares. We make 2-dimensional squares, and we make them really well. If we really stretch our customer service vision, then we could possibly make 2-dimensional rectangles and still do it really well. Thirdly, 3-dimensional spheres. So if your customer is making an unrealistic demand and asking for a 3-dimensional sphere when all you make are 2-dimensional squares and possibly rectangles, clearly that sphere is outside of what you can do. And this is where, with unrealistic demands, there is nothing wrong with saying no. This is what I can do, this is what I could do, but I'm very clear that this is something I cannot do. And when you start to build a relationship with somebody, and when you start to be very clear on what you can and cannot do, unrealistic demands become much easier to say no to. Have a plan for what you can do, offer them something that you can do, but don't be scared of saying, I'm sorry, that is unrealistic and I simply cannot achieve that. And if you continue with a consistent message, I can assure you, you will earn their respect. Unrealistic demands are normally delivered by people who understand that they're unrealistic demands. They're simply seeing how far you can push them, they can push you. So have a clear and consistent understanding of what you can and what you cannot do. And if they're asking for something that is outside what you cannot do, then say you can't do it. You will build their trust and their respect, I assure you. I'm a project manager for NPD. Would my customers be the project teams, the wider business, the actual customer, or all of the above? Well, I'm sorry to have to say, but it's all of the above. Anybody who interacts with you at any point in time, you should consider as a customer. People who have needs and wishes that you need to meet. So it's a challenge, but project managing NPD, the wider business is relying on you to bring NPD to market on time and at the right cost. The actual customer is relying on you to bring NPD to market that is relevant. The consumer is relying on you to bring NPD to the market that actually meets their needs. So all of these people are your customers, and you need to understand how you interact with each of them. What is it that they need from you, and what can you deliver against what they need? But be very clear at any one point in time. Be clear with them what you can do, be clear with them what you cannot do, and once you've made your commitment to what you can do, over-deliver that by 1%. No more, but over-deliver it by 1%. Under-promise and over-deliver. And I think that's it. I think we've now run out of time. Thank you for listening. I hope I've been of some help. There's my contact details on the Q&A slide that will come out on the pack. And if anybody would like to get in touch with me individually to ask any questions, I'd be more than happy to receive your call. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.